Rockstar Games had always been different, whether it be their innovative game design, their bone-chilling gore, or their unorthodox marketing strategy. They had already cemented their place as one of the industry's best game developers, and now all eyes were on them following GTA 5.
You know, Michelle Rowland, the game made almost $1 billion in sales in just the first 24 hours. Places here in the Valley sold out.
And then they went quiet, working in the shadows for 5 years on something that would blow everyone away and cement Rockstar as the best storytellers in not only gaming, but all of media. Rockstar had crafted the most beautiful sword with GTA Online, a fundamentally strong game that would receive regular updates consisting of new features and at times new sections of the map, keeping everything fresh and allowing players to spend real-life money to bypass the tedium if they so desired. However, in doing so, Rockstar unwittingly created history's most vicious double-edged sword, the live service platform. You see, Rockstar had simply wanted to create an online experience that its customers would enjoy, keeping the game fresh and satisfying their player base while they worked on their next games. This was always meant to be a snack for the players, something to gnaw on while the main entree was prepared. And so, it was a great shock that almost all players preferred playing the online mode over the single player of GTA 5. Rockstar took note and suspended all planned single-player DLC in favor of the online expansions. And the industry watched and desired. The industry jumped on the live service bandwagon. Games were released lacking its planned features so they could be added in later as expansions to the live service. Gamers were expected to bear with the lackluster experience until their desired game modes or maps came out. Good narratives, innovation, and strong fundamentals were forewent for repeatable, reusable, easily improvable designs. In their greed, the industry missed what made GTA Online great in the first place. In this time, RDR2 would come out almost as if an angel sprouted from the death throes of a god. A game, taking on the Western genre, promised to be jam-packed with action and thus in line with the trends. It was also promised to contain an online mode, and so fans waited with bated breath. Would Rockstar also fall victim to the monster they created, or would they be the ones to break the cycle? During a time where people are demanding non-stop action and all the developers are providing it, Rockstar took a knee. In stark contrast to even its own past games' designs, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game that asks the player to slow down. Although there are still a lot of action sequences, they are separated by long runs of silence and peace, making the game feel slow.
This game gonna be this slow forever?
Though the world is beautiful and littered with life, very rarely is it littered with interesting life, with the Stephen Index, that is the time between two random events, being well over 2 minutes versus the 20 seconds of its competition. This empty, lonely world asks the player, nay, demands the player returns to camp, returns to civilization, and interacts. Thus, you get to know the folk in your camp, you get to know their quirks and tendencies, their likes and dislikes, and from your own opinion, for the game forces no opinion onto you. And Rockstar went a step further. They even added lore for characters in town which you could accidentally stumble upon, like the Valentine Sheriff's Affair. In even the one-off characters, Rockstar has put a reason to come back again and again. And since man cherishes what he has not, you cherish the scarce random events when they occur. I still remember the sheer surprise of having my horse stolen or being fooled into a robbery. I still remember the absolute amazement of having an NPC reward me with a free weapon at the gunsmith.
You head over to the gunsmith and pick out your choice of item on my tab.
Because I saved him a few days ago. I still remember being fully fearful when I first got attacked by the night folk. Rockstar has made so many of these random events that even now, on my 6th playthrough, with having watched as many RDR2 mystery videos as I could, I still found new random events. A lesser studio would have shoved all these events down my throat. A lesser studio would have wanted to show off their hard work. But Rockstar embraced the fact that not everyone will see everything. And that, my friends, is why people still talk about this game, still watch this game, still play this game even after 6, nearly 7 years. Being a Western, one would assume Red Dead Redemption 2 to follow the life of a rough as the mountain, unbeatable, nigh on perfect outlaw. And although it may appear so on the surface, the true story couldn't be further from that trope. For the first time in the genre, we see an outlaw fighting a desperate battle not only against his enemies, but also his own ideology. We see a man who has done evil in the name of a family.
I was gonna say you're like a son to me, but you're more than that.
And a philosophy.
I got a saying, my friend. We shoot fellas as need shooting, save fellas as need saving, and feed 'em as need feeding.
That he watches be unraveled to be nothing more than smoke and mirrors.
Turned into a bunch of killers, I mean it.
We see a man beat a man to death and ruin his family all for a few dollars, which would amount to nothing in the grand scheme of things, and which he would easily earn 10 times over in the next following few days. But evil as he may do, we see the potential of good in him. We see him save a family of German immigrants with no expectation of a reward, albeit with a little encouragement. We see him save men from slavery. We see him give to the poor. We see him come face to face with the consequences of his actions, and we see him help his victims without expectation of, nay, rejecting thanks and gratitude. And in doing so, we see him redeemed. But that's not all. This outlaw who kills and beats as if it was second nature, who throws himself into danger at the slightest hint of provocation, who would give up on paradise itself to ensure his family was safe, admits to being the one thing a man like him must never become.
I'm afraid.
The story about the downfall of the Vandalin gang and its subsequent chaotic death throes is novel enough itself, yes, but it is the additional inner turmoil of Arthur that brings this masterpiece together. And despite my never-ending praise, I still am yet to mention perhaps the strongest element of the story, which I will leave for you to experience for yourself.
I gave you all I had.
Ardia 2 boasts a world so masterfully created, so well thought out, and so accurate to the time that it has forever redefined the meaning of immersion. By stripping us of all but the absolute bare minimum UI, Rockstar forces you to focus on the world around you. They demand that you look at everything and hear everything. They litter the world with a constant backdrop of wilderness and wildlife and shove all of its noises and visuals onto you, much like how it would have been shoved onto Arthur. And just like Arthur, you learn to ignore the noise. And thus, you become surprisingly good at identifying and locating any noteworthy visuals and sounds when riding around, but also face some trouble finding enemies hiding in the dark or in the woods, forcing you into Arthur's shoes. And every once in a while, you would come across a small town or settlement and experience the quiet peacefulness of society. It is not what you are used to, and thus you are unable to ignore it, like the noises of the wild. But that allows you to enjoy the beauty of civilization. You notice people making their regular commute. You notice couples arguing over some domestic matter. You watch the benign existence of rural civilization, and you are amazed by it. And then you descend upon Saint Denis, the largest, most corrupt city in the game, a settlement so big, so long-standing that it has developed a personality of its own. There you meet people from all over the place. You meet Mexicans, Chinese, English, Italians, and of course, French. And despite the massive city with such a rich demographic, you find them all repulsive and shades of the same color. The aura of Saint Denis is so vile, so overbearing that even its residents and passerbys aren't safe, for it is here that you watch crooks who would be shot in any other town be made the guest of honor by the mayor, and it is here that you watch Dutch begin his descent. And then you desperately escape north, where former slaves are promised freedom and liberty, but you only find more wretchedness and death. Now you are deep within hostile territory, and every step you take is with fear. You find your family killing one another, hostile to everything and everyone, and living in a place that was not long ago somewhere you would hope for a quick death should you ever find yourself there. And even then, the game remains beautiful in its portrayal of death and desolation, of insanity and horror, of depravity and honor. Never has a game world been this remarkable, this consistent with its beauty, this able to elicit the appropriate feelings without the player even realizing it. It was truly a world like no other. The soundtrack of RDR2 is second to none, packed with upbeat and happy-go-lucky music in the second chapter, tense music in the final chapters, and a strangled theme in the epilogue. The game tells as much of a story with its music as it does with its world and characters. Descending from the Grizzlies and into Valentine, we hear the beautiful moonlight, evoking a feeling of calm within us and suggesting that our future is promising and that the worst is behind us. Returning from Guarma, we hear the ever hope-inspiring Unshaken. Riding to confront Micah, we hear the melancholic "That's the way it is," amended with our actions throughout the game. And finally, with Arthur completing his destiny, it's an Unshaken that now plays as a motive, inspiring hope, melancholy, pain, loss, and emotions that cannot be put into words. And then the game makes you play as John Marston before you've had the chance to mourn. And the beauty of the score continues with more songs in the epilogue and with instruments. Even in the credits, we hear beautiful songs like Red as we watch John and Abigail get married, Cruel World as we watch the characters move on, and finally, Mountain Hymn, which is a remix of Moonlight and serves as a final lyrical telling the player to rest, to sit with his emotions, to fully digest the experience. RDR2 is a prequel to RDR1. As such, we already know the end of the story. We know that John will hunt down his former gang members before being hunted himself. We know that Dutch is a maniac deprived of all humanity who can very capably spin a yarn. And so Rockstar was faced with the Herculean challenge of not only showing how the situation in RDR1 came to be, but also to make these unquestionably disgusting, barely human beings appear not tolerable, but likable, to make the player view them as family, to make Dutch a great, kind leader. Not enough praise can be levied upon the main story, but not enough praise has been levied upon the epilogue. While the main story shows us the destruction of the gang and the beginning of the descent for Dutch, it is the epilogue that not only provides closure for the players, but also provides the cohesion for the lore. It shows how and why John found himself in the first game's predicament. It shows why John could never avoid his fate. It shows why
Nothing gets forgiven.
in this essay turned love letter, I attempted to show why RDR2 is so beloved by the fan base. It is not easy to put our emotions into words, and you truly have to play it to understand it. No matter how well someone may describe it, a blind person could never truly understand what the color red looks like. Although I truly needed only 5 words. This game is a masterpiece. Anyway, I hope you liked this video of mine. If you would like to recommend any changes or recommend a game that I should cover next, discuss it in the comments or in my Discord server, link in the description. I also stream at Twitch every other day at around 3 PM Pacific Standard Time, although my times do change here and there, and I would really enjoy your company there. Link also in the description. All that's left, I suppose, is to bid you adieu